Well, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's online and we're good to go. We're starting. How many people we have on board? 78. We have 78. That's pretty good. Well, good morning. It's good to have everybody here. The quick notes: if you want to ask a question during the call, this needs to be more of a discussion and not a lecture. Um, please click the under the red arrow. Please click the button to put your hand up, and then when we call on you, we just ask that you unmute, and we'll go forth on our discussion. We do want to appreciate your association for helping to set this up. This has been, as we've done these with auditors and commissioners, has been a good time for us to exchange best practices amongst each other and just to have that conversation. The good news is Governor DeWine yesterday indicated that it's time to start thinking about relaxing and opening up. Ohio seems to have plateaued. The bad news is this is going to be ugly. Everybody's quoting the March numbers. The March is going to be, uh, I think, slight in comparison to what we see in April and potentially May as regard to the numbers. For your counties, sales tax is going to be beat up pretty hard. We're seeing a significant decrease in auto sales. We're also seeing non-auto sales are down. Don't have a good number on where we're going to be at on internet sales. That might go up a little bit. For other resources for your villages and cities that are relying on income tax, just like the state, which uses part of that to fund the local government funds, you're going to see a real big hit if they're certainly on a fiscal year like Ohio that ends July 1st. All of this hit for Ohio is coming at the end of our fiscal year, so it's very difficult to adjust. Kicking the feds kicking the income tax filing date from April, which is usually the largest filing month for Ohio, is going to be a significant hit. Hopefully it's just deferred into July, but it could still be a significant hit. And so that's going to be a big issue. For property taxes, look, property taxes, as you know, are done a year in arrears. There's a big debate out there about a deferral on paying property taxes that are due in June or July. We're not directly weighing into that debate, but I will tell you our general office belief is that there are plenty of individuals and entities out there that are fully able to pay their property taxes on time. We would probably favor a liberal totality of the circumstances kind of deferral on late payments and fees and interest if somebody has a COVID-19 reason for delaying. But those are our belief is probably better handled on a case-by-case basis than an across-the-board deferral. Certainly, if somebody's been escrowing their payments all along, why leave that money sit in the bank? Let's get it in so we can help entities that are going to rely on that, your townships and others. With regard to other revenues, certainly if you get lodging and tourism taxes, those are going to be hit significantly. We anticipate the casino tax receipts are going to be down considerably. You should anticipate that your travel and tourism taxes are going to be down. Everything that is subject to activity is likely to be impacted. We're anticipating the state 20% between now and the fiscal year end. We in our office did a 20% reduction in our non-personnel GRF, just like most other state agencies have done. We're recommending that you all start planning for that. Since most of you are on a calendar year basis, you're going to have more months to adjust. Hopefully some of you had a significant carry forward that you can use towards that, just like the state. We fully funded our rainy day fund, and I'm glad we increased it from 5% to 8.5% because that's going to give the state a cushion. But we anticipate Governor DeWine having to use upwards of $1 billion plus just to balance for this fiscal year end coming up July 1st. That's going to leave him hard pressed and leave the legislature hard pressed at making adjustments going forward into the next fiscal year. But as you all know from doing budgeting, doing small things over many months is less painful than having to do large things over a few months. So that's the fiscal picture. We're happy to have a detailed discussion about some of this as we go forward. We just want everybody to be prepared. Two things we want you to remember. If your county is getting in anticipating some kind of fiscal distress, contact us early so that we can get our LGS people to target and help out where we can. We have the ability, assuming the governor refills the local government audit support fund, to use some of those resources to help you out at a reduced cost, or in some places a grant. So don't forget, if you need help, contact us about our local government and our LGS folks. We also have the ability to do performance audits where necessary. So with that, that's where we're looking. The first question for everybody is, are you ready for your June and July property tax collections? Are any of you going to have problems getting your billings out? What are you hearing? So that would be my first general question for everybody out there. Remember to raise your hand. What you need to do is, under the red arrow is the ability to ask a question. Just click on that. We'll put you in the queue. When we call on you, we'll ask you then just to unmute your mic. But we have space there if you want to ask a question or participate. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question. It can be a comment. It can be sharing best practices, what you're doing. Since this Treasurer Spring Conference has been canceled, with the Auditor Estates are we providing other opportunities to meet online continuing education requirements? The short answer is yes. We are working with our training department in your association to try and be maximum. Our buzzword around the office is maximum flexibility. We are giving maximum flexibility with regard to CEs. We anticipate our fraud conference, for example, which was set to go in the fall, adding an extra day there for some CE, but we are also making online CE available as well. So we are trying to do that in that capacity. So stay tuned. We should be putting out more online training and training that's available. But again, candidly, as long as you're making best efforts, we certainly will be flexible there. So our first question is Andrew. Andrew is with what county? Union County. Andrew, go ahead and unmute your phone and join us.
Okay, well, it's more a response as it relates to your question in terms of tax delays. Union County, we don't expect any type of delay in either the distribution, mailing, or collection of property taxes. Our due date is July 15th. Our mailing will go out approximately second week of June as on schedule. And as you stated, we will look at liberalization of penalties and or interest on a case-by-case basis.
That sounds to be a good compromise approach. You have a little later date. Some people are early June. It seems to us, just looking at our approach and discussion, there are going to be local governments that are going to need those revenues. Now, in the end, the other thing some counties are talking about doing, when we talked to some of the auditors, was allowing advances to some of your local governments as need be. But the collection issue, if you guys have the capacity to get everything out on time and the ability, that seems to be a prudent step to take. What are you seeing? How are your staff operating? Are you able to get your people in? Are you having problems?
Yeah, we've had, with the exception of one person who was out on an unrelated illness for about a week, we've been in person, full staff the entire time. We have limited access from the public, but we have a public location for anybody to drop off payments. We're receiving normal in terms of pay-ins from the other agencies and departments. So we're open and operating just as we would otherwise. We do see far less traffic, but we've not diminished our staff or services provided.
That's good. I'd be curious to hear what some other counties are seeing. I think that's certainly a good benchmark. How are you doing? Are you able to? Are people able to help? Do you need anything from us?
No, we're doing fine. Of course, we have an ongoing audit for our year that ended December of 2019. We're still getting inquiries from your staff, and we're responding to them. I know they're not in person and working remotely, but everything seems to be going smoothly there.
Yeah, that's an important point to point out. Our staff are all out there still working. Out of our 800 staff, 600 of them have had and before this occurred, worked remotely, either from home or from other places. And our people are still out there doing the work. However, they are going to probably ask you to pull some things and set them in a conference room, or go pick up things and come get them a couple days later to try and keep their social distancing and stay safe as well. But they're out there. If you need a delay or anything comes up, make sure you let us know that as soon as you can. By the way, all of my regional staff are on this call as well, along with James Coyne, who is their boss. So if you need something from our office, don't forget those customer service support people from our shop. They're out there. They're willing to help. And if not, every once in a while, just give them a call to see if they're actually working remotely. James, I always tell him, our people are really good, but sometimes you just need to push them a little bit. And they're out there. They're out there to help, and we're proud of them all. Our next call is Nancy Nix. Nancy, how's Butler County doing? Oh, she has no mic. So here's a written question from her. During the last recession, some office holders cut their own pay, but there was never a dictate from above. There will be pressure from the public to cut elected official salaries. Do you foresee the legislature attacking that or leaving it up to individual counties? My crystal ball on this is a little murky because it was so long before elected officials got the last round of raises. I don't think you're going to hear much from the legislature on that. Depends on how long this lasts. If this lasts months and months and goes years and years, there will be discussion about compensation, particularly if you're laying off and reducing compensation of other entities. If it's short-lived, my guess is that we're going to have to try and reduce expenses where we can. Just anticipate that. There really isn't a good mechanism in place for state folks to reduce their pay or locals, but I think it's tough. If you're going to lay off 50% of your staff, you need to look at compensation. If we're given furlough days, it's going to be a discussion. All of that is something probably better situated to talk about with your legislators. But right now, hopefully this is short-lived, and we're talking about adjustments, not wholesale changes. So next question is from Andrew from Stark County. Andrew, hopefully we can get you on.
That's Alex. It's okay. The
Alex?
question was related. Yes, sir. Out of Stark County. I was just curious in regard.
Alex, it's my Alex Spilcheck here that's messing this up. So look, we're running this process the best we can. So we're sorry about that. Alex, now he's retyping it correctly. Alex, join us. What's on your mind?
Yes, this is actually relating back to the audit and in regards to providing documents. We have no trouble or problems handling that and getting them to your staff, except when it comes to emailing sensitive material such as copies of canceled checks, bank statements, things of that nature. With all the fraud going on, I don't want to be sending out emails that have this sensitive data on it unless I'm sure it's going to be a secured FTP setup. So we certainly make copies and make them available for the auditors, but just was wondering if maybe in the future an FTP site, secure site, could be set up for the transfer of those sensitive documents.
All right, I'm going to mute and let my IT director answer this. He believes we have a secure process to do that. So he's going to join us and answer that question. Again, we're trying to, this is new technology for all of us, but hopefully he has an answer. So hang on a second. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Dave Potts. I'm the CIO for the office. We do have a way to do that. It's called send this file. It is 128-bit encrypted traffic. We do have a way to do that. If your audit staff are not telling you that, we certainly have a way to do it. Again, Dave Potts with the office. If you want to reach out to the liaison. They'll get the message to me, but we absolutely have a tool to do that.
Dave, how do they contact you directly? What's your email?
Sure. It's dbpotts@ohioauditor.gov.
Great question. That's one of those things that we want to make sure our technology is up to snuff and doing what it needs to do. We are and continue to be very concerned about cyber fraud. And so I appreciate you keeping that concern. That's something that we share your concerns with. You guys need to stay vigilant on that. This is a time when the hackers aren't taking a Corona vacation. They're trying to get some money to go to vacation to drink Corona. So let's keep a mind of all of that and continue to try and remind everybody about staying cyber safe as well. Our next question is from Jane. Jane is from Wood County. Jane, go ahead and unmute and join us. Jane, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in on the second half collection and say that I have worked with my vendors, and our third-party vendors are able to work with us even though they're working from home. Our taxes are due July 10th, and our intentions are to go forward with billing in June, and see no problem with being able to process that.
Good, good. Your staff all functioning? Everybody good?
At our staff, we've went to rotating staff, so we're working half and half. It seems to be working well. Like everyone, fortunately, right now is a little bit quieter time in the treasurer's office, and obviously it's quiet with the public at this time too. So it's working well. Everybody's healthy.
Good, good. Anything we can do for you?
No, I think we're set. Thank you, though.
Okay, we'll keep in touch. We certainly want to make sure that we're out there supporting as you continue to watch your revenues and things. If you got problems, make sure your commissioners and other folks know that we're here to help, particularly if we can do some anticipation. Any of you have a question, make sure you put the hand up button. It's under the red arrow. It's the hand up button, and then we'll call on you. And then when we call on you, just unmute your mic. Kathy from Belmont County, I think did a written request, but Kathy, are you on the line?
I am.
There you go. Thanks. I see your request. Go ahead and share it with the group.
We actually did request an extension for the second half collection. Even though our due date wasn't until July 24th, we decided to take that opportunity to extend the due date to August 21st, being for the reason to try to recover more funds for the political subdivisions in the schools, in hopes that we can collect more money on a timely basis, so that it will actually settle out in the second half collection as opposed to the first half of next year.
Look, we've had this conversation with auditors and commissioners. Anything you can do to get things in is going to help, particularly those townships and school districts when they need the money. So we appreciate that. How's your staff doing? You guys holding up all right?
We are. Obviously, we have a reduced number of people coming in. We just predominantly do pay-ins and select few tax collection. Obviously, we are encouraging everyone to do credit card and mail at this point. However, we do have some tax collector or taxpayers that still want to come in, so we are taking care of them. We've reduced the staff by half. We do alternate them so that we limit the contact that they have interactive with each other.
How have you guys been following? You probably aren't having public meetings. Your board of review is probably not meeting. Are you guys having any public meetings where you're using technology, conference calls, or are using video conferencing?
We are not. The commissioners are still running their meetings as they've always been doing, as a public meeting. As far as anything else, the only thing we had is land bank, and we've continued that since there's nothing that's pressing.
Okay. Yeah, I figured that most of your stuff, but we talked to the commissioners. A number of them were doing the electronic meetings, and that seemed to be working well. So your commissioners may want to try that if it continues much longer.
Agreed.
So anything we can do for you? Anything we can do to help? How are everything? You getting information from our people?
We actually have constant contact with the state auditor's office, being the local representatives. And of course, Jim is always great to talk to, so he's always available for us.
Good. Well, look, we're trying to, one, give everybody forecasting so that you know what's coming, and two, make sure we can anticipate problems. One of the things I'll share with everybody on the call as well, our lead shop is out there. We're trying to compile a list for the legislature of things that local governments are seeing in this next round of authorizing legislation. We were able to do the public meetings by telephone or by video conference. We were able to get that in the last version. We were also able to get a couple other things in, but we just need to know what our people should be working on. So if you see something, make sure you share them with our liaisons, our representatives. Thanks, Tracy from Putnam County. You're next. Tracy, if you're there, go ahead and unmute. Tracy, are you there? I'm going to read your question, but leave you open. Tracy, if you unmute, you can join into the discussion. Are there any other treasurers putting anything on their second half bill about people who have lost their job or have COVID-19 related issues so you can pay late? I'd be curious to hear that from the discussion of anybody out there. If anybody's doing that, go ahead and buzz in, and we'll open up the mic for that. Tracy, did I get your question right? Assume that means we did. Next question. She messages back, yes. Thank you, Tracy. Next question messaged us, some counties are giving consideration to delaying the triennial appraisals with the anticipation of declined market values. Do we have a position? The short answer is we haven't got a position on that yet. We'll take a look at it and study it. That's probably, look, the law is the law. I anticipate that since those are 3-year cycles that this will get through before then. It probably will be hopefully not reflected in the long-term evaluation of property, but we may see if we go into a real economic recession that property values are indicated by that, and that should be picked up in the ordinary 3-year review. And so we think it's appropriate that those continue on the original course, but it's open for the question. We're looking for input, and we'll have that discussion. Next one, Nancy Nix. Nancy, go ahead and unmute. Oh, no mic again. Do I have any thoughts when state government offices may bring employees back to the office from remote locations and also to begin opening to the public again? From state office perspective, I have given unofficial guidance to all of my department heads to anticipate for our office that's not going to be until June 1st. We think the governor will start by May 1st, loosening the stay-at-home restrictions and this non-essential discussion. But I think they're going to ask people who have the ability to work remotely and where you seem to be doing that relatively seamlessly to continue to allow that as an option to try and keep the workload, at least the social distancing in our workplaces. We anticipate that we can do that relatively effective here. As I said, our office, most people have the ability to do remote work and did remote work even before this. So we're just encouraging that, and we will continue to encourage that for our staff. The other part of from our office is that really looking at the March numbers. Now remember, it was only 2 weeks, but looking at the March numbers, our March productivity on number of audits completed was consistent with last year and the year before. So we seem to keep our productivity up, and so we're probably going to continue our flexible RWL, remote work location policy, with an encouragement that people who need not come into the office don't come in. That doesn't mean that some people aren't going to be coming in, and we're not going to be a little more aggressive getting out to your locations to get bills and records. And so from that perspective, we anticipate that's going to be a big questions. From Dave Walters in Mercer County, he emailed us a question ahead of this. And what was the question? Dave, are you on the call? If you're on the call, go ahead and unmute. All right, I'm not getting from Dave. Dave's question was, what changes are being made to the auditor's personnel usage during these audits? The real question for us is not much. The big change is how they do their work. They're continuing to do work remotely. They're using our electronic work papers function and getting electronic data. When they need physical data, they're calling the offices and having you pull the records and then put them in a conference room, and they'll come pick them up, or they'll come get them as well as they can. It may take a couple of days for the records to quote unquote cool off. They might be leaving it in their other secure location for that. But we certainly are trying to make sure we continue to do things like we did before where possible. The one variation is we have a few small clients that really didn't have the manpower, the ability to do some of that. So we have done a few delays, but that's pretty rare. So from that perspective, we're doing the best we can. Kevin, how you doing, Kevin? Futrick, you're on from the association. Unmute and you're good to go.
Right. Thank you, Auditor Faber. This is in response to, I think it was Tracy's question about what our treasurer's doing with respect to notifications on the tax bills. Our association is not taking a position on that. We're leaving that up as a local decision to all county treasurers. But we have provided through the CTAO website the link to the forms that can be filled out by taxpayers requesting some kind of abatement of the penalties. And then last week as well, we had a conference call with the Department of Taxation on the issue of interest payments. And they are supposed to be providing us some guidance documents that we'll share with treasurers as well. But essentially, it's a local decision for how each treasurer will handle it. But we did provide the form and the procedures through the Board of Revision that they're to follow. So thank you.
Thank you. And just to give a shout out to your association, your president and Kevin and your entire staff were very helpful getting this scheduled. Thank you guys for doing that. Hopefully this is helpful to you. We can do other follow-ups as we get some answers, but just to continue to keep everybody in touch. This is technology that we're learning with as well, but we have the technology. We ought to be using it in the best way to get everybody out there. We've also got some other technology that we're trying and maybe coming out with soon that will allow us actually to see each other. But that technology is in development from our office perspective. We've had some people join the call, so if anybody has a question, you can use the raise your hand button in the control panel. It is under the red arrow, and we'll call on you, and you will need to unmute your mic. There you go. If you wanted to read it, there you go. That's what you need to do. Again, this is learning new technology. We're trying to have a little bit of fun with this. We have here working with us our IT director, James Coyne, who's our regional director for regional reps, and Alex Bilchek, who's our deputy chief of staff for external affairs. They're trying to feed information to me as well. This is important that we continue to keep the communication and discussion going. If you've got anything that you've seen unusual in your offices that you want to share with everybody and ask for feedback, this is a good chance to do it and get input from your fellow treasurers. It's also time for everybody to remember our office policy with regard to this has been adopting what we call a maximum flexibility. In your audits, if you see something that comes up that you want us to have flexibility or consideration, ask. This is the time to ask. My instruction to all of our regional chiefs have been, this is maximum flexibility with regard to audits. We want common sense compliance. If we can help explain or get something out there, we're open to do it during this time period. Other questions? Do we have other questions coming in? Looks like. Yep, we have. Looks like you guys we're answering your questions. That scares me. Discuss cybersecurity is something that we got input. By the way, you can use the question button to get in here live participation, or you can send us a question in the questions function to type questions directly to us. Discuss cybersecurity was a concern. Look, we have cyber concerns all across the platform. I made the statement before COVID that we believe that cyber fraud was costing Ohioans and Ohio government more than employee theft and dishonesty. We were seeing a cyber theft or cyber issue almost every single day here in the office across some platform. It could range from a ransomware attack to the county to a township in northern Ohio who lost $1.1 million through a ACH fraud scheme that a hacker got into their system and ACH'd $1.1 million out. So we want you all to continue to stay vigilant. Working from home does not mean laxing your components on fraud. We continue to stay vigilant, but we know that there's likely going to be an uptick as people are a little more remote, whether it's the paycheck redirect scheme or all of the other things you're seeing out there. So you may want to just reiterate your fraud process controls with your staff. You know, don't click on links, don't bring in external media, don't do all of those kind of things that we need to be concerned about to keep it buttoned up and tight. So from that perspective, we just need to make sure that we're staying current. One other thing that I want to just reemphasize, revenues are going to get tight. You are going to see this. For your communities that rely on income tax, they're going to get a double whammy. They're going to get a whammy from the deferral of the April tax date. Remember, April is 25 to 30% of all tax collections usually. That was kicked to the middle of July. They're also going to get hit by the reduction in the workforce. We now have almost 10% unemployed across Ohio. They're not going to have an income to pay income taxes. So that's going to be a factor, and they need to anticipate that and adjust. That's going to impact the state, and since local government funds are a reflection of that, that's going to be a factor. On entities, particularly townships that rely on gas tax revenue, the Department of Transportation indicates that road usage down by almost 45%. So you should anticipate the gas tax is going to drop precipitously. That's going to be an impact in your county budgets for transportation, your county engineers department. It's going to be a really big hit when it comes to your townships on road miles and road maintenance. For entities that rely on things like travel and tourism dollars, travel and tourism taxes, you're going to see a hit there as well. Because nobody's traveling and nobody's doing tourism. So those kind of tax revenues are going to see a hit. Casino revenue is gone. So we just need to anticipate that you're not going to get that source. And so all of these are factors that you need to anticipate. Now, those property tax-based jurisdictions, assuming the property tax collection goes as normal with minimal disruption, it's going to be a timing issue most likely. And so make sure that we're keeping track of that as well. And then those entities that deal with sales tax, that's largely your counties. Sales tax is a different animal. We see the auto sales tax down anywhere between 40 to 60%. And we're seeing the non-auto, it's a question of how much we're getting back from Amazon, because nobody's buying non-food items, which obviously aren't subject to sales tax, because the stores are all closed. And so if your family's like mine, you're picking up that online, so you're having things delivered. But in the end, we don't know how that tax base is going to be reflected. So all of these are going to be variable factors. A good guide is a 20% adjustment. So to the extent that you can start planning and adjusting your staff utilization and start adjusting your non-necessary or your deferrable spend, I would tell you to start doing that to help balance your offices. We've done that. We took 20% out of our non-personnel GRF just for the rest of this year. And our year ends July 1st. So with that, this is interesting, and we're all having a struggle. Dave Walters sent in something. I don't think Dave's on the line, is he? Dave, unmute, and you're on the line. It's nice to have another Mercer County person on the line. Dave, are you there?
Keith, can you hear me?
You're on, Dave.
Hey, Keith, how you doing?
It's always sunny in Mercer County, so I'm not going to ask you how it was there. I left there this morning bright and early to get here to Columbus.
It's a beautiful day in Mercer County.
Other than snow.
That's right. So with respect to moving the second half due date, I was just curious, where does the approval need to come from? Does the school, the township, do those treasurers all need to sign off on that, moving that due date, or what's the mechanics of that?
The mechanics on moving the due date is the Department of Tax. The auditor can do a request to the Department of Taxation, the tax commissioner, and he has the ability to give a continuation. I'm told that the initial one is almost pro forma, and then for a month or so, and then longer than that, they're granting under as circumstances. But I'm told they're quite liberal with granting those as well.
I would think part of the challenge of moving dates is that our collection is February and July. If we move a July date to August or something later, then all of a sudden the February date of 2021 comes up pretty quickly as well. So that's kind of that slippery slope that happens when you start moving dates from my perspective.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. And the discussion from our perspective is a wholesale move, if it's necessitated by office concerns, might be a different issue than moving it for consumer, because there are a lot of people out there that don't need an extension. If you're escrowed and the bank's sitting on the property tax amount already from the prior period, Why leave that money sitting in the bank? Why don't we get it in? And there are other examples out there where people have the ability to pay. Now, if it's a coronavirus related layoff, or somebody has issues, we think that it is certainly highly appropriate to give those deferrals and waive interest and penalties. But that should be on a case-by-case requested basis. At least that's our office position at this point.
Very good. Thanks, Keith.
Hey, Dave, keep doing the good work. Chris Hitchcock from Geauga County's out there. Chris, unmute, you're on. Oh, Chris says he has no mic, so he's not on. Charlie, Fulton County. Doesn't have audio. The question from Charlie was, do the county auditors have the ability to do advances to the entities? Yes, they do. And they have some capacity to do that. When we talk to the auditors, many of them were talking about advances and giving partial payouts and partial collection numbers. And so my understanding is talk to your auditor's office about that if that's an issue. It's not regular practice. They do have the option, is my understanding. If not, yes, I think we answered her questions. They have that option, is my understanding, in conversations we had with them on our call earlier in the week. If you need more follow-up on that, we can research it and get back to you, but my understanding is the auditors know that procedure. All right, with that, it looks like, unless Chris is there. Chris, did we get you back online? If you're there, just unmute your mic. Oh, no mic, okay. So I want to thank everybody for participating. We intend to do these. If these are helpful, we'll work with your association to put another one together in a couple of weeks. And even if you guys just want to have an ability to communicate directly, I know you can do that, but this platform's available. As I said, we've paid for it, so it's out there to be able to use it. I appreciate all the work you're doing every day, but make sure you reach out to our folks. If you need LGS help, if you need performance audit team to come in and take a look at something, let us know. We have the ability to come in and help with that, and we can even subsidize some of that most likely. Having said that, reach out to our customer service team, our regional representatives. They were all on this call, but if you haven't talked to our regional reps in a while, just give them a call. They're going to be reaching out as well. And certainly if you ever need me, you can email me or call me. Most of you have my cell number. But my email address is keith@ohioauditor.gov, keith@ohioauditor.gov. We're here to help. We're here to try and get through this. All of us in the boat rowing in the same direction is going to get through it better than if we all try and go our own separate directions. So from our perspective, we have adopted maximum flexibility in the audits. We still have to be the check and balance. We still have to make sure everything's done right. But if you have a question as to what some of that means, we're here to give that advice and provide that guidance. So with that, thanks everybody. I appreciate, stay safe, and continue to keep everything up and running as best you can.